Welcome back to the Ancient Cosmic Clock for the Season of Jupiter, Part 2, our upcoming cosmic forecast.
Welcome.
Okay, so just a quick 10-second review. Jupiter is the good guy in the archetypes. It's the expansion. It's the bigger, better, more, buy, sell, trade. I'll take 8. It's that kind of an archetype, okay? And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, we want to talk about a little bit of the history of what's been happening to us with the season of Jupiter and its alignments, what type of archetypes have came up. And
okay. So how long does Jupiter take, just for the astronomy lesson in this? Do you know how long Jupiter takes to make its way around the sun?
Like roughly a year.
Oh, yeah, a year through each sign. It's about 12 years to go all the way around.
Right. A year through on each side. Roughly 12 years for all of them.
Okay. So let's talk about Jupiter when it was in Pisces. So this would be the year of 2021?
Yeah,
roughly,
like maybe 2022 a bit. It was in 2022 a part of the time there. We saw like the growth of like TikTok and stuff like that, because you had a lot of people that were tied to their homes for a bit. Mm-hmm. And then you saw this expansion of Amazon and TikTok, because Pisces is, once again, it's the other world. It's expanding the other world.
Yeah, it's also, I would say, Pisces can be the isolationist. Pisces places are like, to me, like hospitals where you're divided into neat little isolation pods almost. And Jupiter in that, like, what was happening in the world in 2021 when... Think about that for a second. I don't want to give us another warning, but I'm gonna try and avoid those keywords that get us flagged and get us warnings. Although that might be how you recognize that an episode's worth listening to.
Yeah, we have one of our episodes that didn't go out to hardly anybody because we
got what's the word I'm looking for? Profile scaled back.
Yeah.
Ratioed or so. I don't know. There's a word, and I'm sure I'll think of it eventually.
Well, we thought it was fun to talk about, but as you saw over even before it was in Pisces, you would see Jupiter move into Aquarius, which would bring out social constructs. So we would see where we had our social constructs taken away over the last few years because we had Saturn in Aquarius, and then you would see Jupiter go into Aquarius, and you'd see us getting to get out more, getting us to gather more, and then it would, because of the movement of the planets, because they'll weave in and out. Mm-hmm. You'd see this like, okay, we have freedoms, now we don't, and now if you have this, you can
if you do the thing that we want you to do,
that. But anyways, with that alignment of Jupiter in Pisces, we did see a growth of stuff from the other world, a growth of Amazon having things where you buy on the internet from another world and then it shows up on your door. That company had a lot of growth.
Yeah, bringing stuff from the other world literally into your physical space.
Yes.
It's a very Pisces concept.
Yes, so we did see that. And now I've been pretty nervous about the current alignment for a little bit. I've been just like, oh.
Yeah, you and I have talked a little bit about this before. Our slides are going ahead. You and I have talked a little bit about this before, and we've talked about Jupiter in Aries, and because it's been there for 4 months, maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we tell the audience what we think about when we think about Jupiter in Aries?
Well, my first thought comes to Aries being the god of war. And you've seen this expansion of war and this expansion of conflict. It's like they're almost baiting each other to like escalate it. And we've seen this escalation of a conflict and at least the talk of like a World War III.
Yeah, well, we certainly have seen like conflict go from words to, around the time Jupiter moved into Aries. I'd have to look at my calendar on this. That's right around the time Russia decided to invade Ukraine and kicking off expansion of war, expansion of hostilities, and unfortunately bloodshed.
Yeah, and when Jupiter moved in, and it was kind of weaving in and out to where it was in between Pisces and then Aries, and we'd have a lot of things happen at those moments when it was even like somewhat in Pisces, like. Mm-hmm. But Pisces can be the idea of.
Illusions,
propaganda, lies. like giving somebody a story. And then some of that stuff does precede war. It's kind of a natural flow. So, and we had one of the world wars started with that kind of alignment.
Yeah. I think maybe both of them did.
Yeah, it was like World War One or two. One of them did. I had a bunch of papers and I didn't bring them with me, but I had like
that's
all
just
the
the kind of
alignments.
preparation you get here on the Ancient Cosmic Clock.
Sorry about that. But anyways, so one of them started with it in Pisces was that when it had to do with like the idea of like propaganda and then but also when you have Jupiter in Pisces, it's expanding. It can expand propaganda, but also it's in opposition to Virgo. So we need to start thinking about the cosmic language in a way of their opposites. So where Jupiter is like blessing one, and it's giving like a negative aspect to the one that's in opposition to.
Okay.
It's neglecting that archetype.
So I'm thinking about, there was a period of time in the 1980s when Jupiter was in Pisces. And shortly after that, the Berlin Wall fell. You have the Cold War that suddenly kind of came to an end with Jupiter's exit from Pisces and into, it would be Aries. So it's not always, where I'm going with this, it's the archetype. It's not always a bad, scary thing, though it certainly can be. Because there were a lot of ways that could have gone.
But let's look at that. Jupiter, where it was in Pisces and it's expanding Pisces energy, it's in opposition. It's 180 degrees from Virgo. Virgo's order. You're taking order away.
Yeah, order and
so you
obnoxious.
So you have that with one of the world wars. You have one of that with the Berlin Wall falling, and you have those. I think we'll have a bit bigger idea, a bigger, more conclusive understanding when we were understanding like what its position is to other things too.
So, after we have a period of Jupiter in Aries, we're headed for a period of Jupiter in Taurus, and that's going to be coming up in about 6 months, maybe something like that.
It's actually sooner. So that
time is relative for me. I've mentioned I have 2 newborns.
So one thing to note, we're probably not going to have this one published for 2 weeks, so we'll be a little bit outdated when it comes out, and we have a lot of things happening in the world, but the universe isn't like a circle. It's not this exact timeline. It's more oval. And when it's more oval, it will be in one area like a bit longer, and then sometimes it will speed up and not stay in one thing equally as long. And so that's what's kind of happened. It's been zigzagging between Aries and Pisces for quite a while. For months, it's been doing that dance. And now it's in third decan, like towards the last third of Aries. And it's gonna actually slide out of that in like weeks. So I don't have the exact date in my head, but
well, it slides back, it slides out, it'll slide back and forth, maybe zigzagging a little bit, or
it often does that.
Yeah. So we're headed out of Aries and into Taurus.
Yes, Taurus. Taurus is like can be a good archetype, but they all have their good and their bad the way that it can play. Taurus in the seasons is the middle of spring. Yeah. So think of like that's like one of the best times of year where the warm's starting to come in and it's starting to stabilize. And
unless you're in Utah suffering from floods, I'm so sorry.
And that is a detour we could take actually, because we're actually starting to flood today.
Yeah. Like there were people filling sandbags at midnight last night.
Yeah, and we definitely have some planetary alignments kind of showing that archetype. Like Neptune is the water planet, right? Mm-hmm. And it's in its home.
It's in its home of Pisces.
And its home of Pisces.
Yeah, should we take a look at the whole map while we're talking about this?
Yeah, let's look at the map. So this is around the time of year that we're in, and Neptune's still there in Pisces. Jupiter's in Aries. Here in a few weeks it will be in Taurus, and Taurus can be a slow mover. It can mean like what we're expanding or gaining can be slow. It can bring in that archetype, but it also brings up the idea of Taurus rules over
my stuff. my possessions, like fixed. Taurus in the archetype they would say is fixed earth, right? So it's like, tangible things, my stuff that I have. So I would think, it could be the expansion of land, of houses. Like it should be pretty friendly towards the Jupiter archetype, I would think.
I think one thing to look at though is sometimes people gain and sometimes people lose, and it's not that we're predicting that there'll be a housing boom, but it's the idea of it's also in opposition to Scorpio, so it brings in the idea of the haves, Taurus, and the have-nots. So it's that the subject or theme could come up, and it doesn't necessarily mean that put your money in this, as much as it means look at these things coming up. Look at these things that have to do with possessions.
Yeah, and so, some of this, what we're talking about here, let's take a look. Well, I don't want to point too far away. Some of this, when we mention oppositions, I've got the zodiac wheel. This is a great graphic to illustrate this. So we've got Taurus here, where Uranus and Mercury. Everybody has their way of avoiding this pronunciation. I'll do mine as well. But Taurus is opposite Scorpio. And a moment ago you mentioned Pisces, which is kind of covered up by our faces, is opposite Virgo. And that's a really good visual to kind of bring that home. That's what we're talking about when it's in opposition to something, when it's on the opposite side of the sky.
Yeah. And one thing to kind of know is we're getting affected by Uranus being in Taurus, and it's in opposition to Scorpio. So once again, Uranus, we haven't done a lesson on this, but really quick and briefly is the idea of liberation. It's a doorway. It can be rebellion. It can bring in, it's the ruler of Aquarius, which has to do with social constructs. So it's bringing in these archetypes where there could be a friction, once again, with Taurus and Scorpio, the haves and the have-nots. Because Scorpio is what is other people's stuff.
Yeah.
It's what doesn't belong to you. And Taurus is what belongs to you.
What's mine.
Yeah. So it brings in that theme, that season. We'll go into that season with people will have on their mind of expanding, and it will be about what they're trying to gain or what they don't have. But there's going to be the idea of possessions, money, substance. Our material world is going to come up a bit.
Okay. Well, anything else we want to talk about while we're finishing up on Jupiter?
I think we're good.
All right. Make sure you click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. Peace, everybody.